In today's video, we're shooting out the Vox AC10 versus the AC15. Welcome to 𝗃𝗿𝗿𝗁 Studio. My name is Jonathan, and the purpose of today's video is to help you out in case you're considering either buying the AC10 or the AC15. So I'm going to tell you everything I know about both these amps so you can make an informed decision on your next purchase. We're briefly going to talk about the features of both amps. We're going to talk about their pros and cons, and we're going to listen to some audio examples. So let's get started. The AC10 circuit is based on the top boost design from the AC30 and AC15. So you have your gain, volume, you have the EQ section with the bass and treble, and instead of having a reverb tank, you have a digital reverb on board. It comes equipped with a Celestion VX10 speaker. The amp is powered by two 𝗂𝗚𝗏𝗄𝗏s and is equipped with two 12AX7 preamp tubes. The AC10 is rated at 10 watts RMS and weighs 12 pounds. The AC15 is rated at 15 watts RMS into a 16 ohm speaker. It comes equipped with either a Celestion 𝗂𝗚𝗏𝗏𝗄𝗏 or a Celestion greenback speaker. It also has a normal and a top boost input. There is an extension and an external jack at the back of the amplifier. The amp also has switchable tremolo and reverb, but the foot switch is not included with the amplifier. It is powered by two 𝗂𝗚𝗏𝗏𝗏s and three 12AX7 preamp tubes, and it weighs 49 pounds. So now let's talk about the pros of the AC10. First off, it is very lightweight, weighs only 12 pounds. It's not a very large amplifier, it's actually a very small combo, so it's very compact. For an amp in this price range, it has very good features. It also has a good sounding digital reverb. You get great Vox clean tones, and it has a really nice saturated overdrive. It actually works really great for home use. So if you just need a practice amp, it can sound very good at low volumes. It is also a great studio amp. At 10 watts, you can crank it up without bothering your neighbors, and you can get some really great sound at low volumes as well. It's loud enough for small gigs, especially if you're going to be using a microphone in front of the amp. It takes pedals really well. I've tested it out with a Boss SD1, a TC Electronic, Rusty Fuzz, and an EHX Screaming Bird, which is a treble booster, and it performs just as well as the AC15 with pedals. And you can also use an extension cab at 16 ohms with the amp. Alright, so the first con I want to talk about are the tubes. So first off, if you want to get access to the tubes, you have to unscrew the back panel, but there's a certain way to do it. So if you unscrew all the screws at the back of the panel, you will get access to the speaker and power tubes only. If you want to change all the tubes, what you have to do is just unscrew the outer edge of the back panel and the two top screws that are mounted on top of the amplifier. What that does essentially is that you can remove the panel, but the chassis on the inside will also follow along with it because it is mounted to that back panel. Now that's the way you get to the preamp tubes and the power tubes at once. If you just want to change the power tubes, what you can do is just undo all the screws at the back and don't touch the two top screws that are mounted on top of the amplifier, and that way you can just change the power tubes. But this brings me to my second point. The second point is the proximity of the power tubes in relation to the speaker. There's not a lot of wiggle room there. There's about 2 inches of distance between the both of them. Do keep in mind the footprint of the actual speaker that's in there, and if you decide to make an upgrade, it's going to have to be something with just about the same dimensions. Now, my third point is that the amp is loud, but I don't think it's loud enough for loud rehearsals. So if you play with your bandmates and everybody plays extremely loud, the amp might not cut through the mix unless you use a microphone and send it through the PA. So do take that into consideration. My last point is the lack of options you have in terms of upgrades. If you don't like the reverb, it's a digital reverb, it's built in, so you can't take it out unless you're really good and you know what you're doing. And the other thing too is that you can't put any speaker that you want in the amplifier. You are pretty limited when it comes to upgrades, but if you do love the amp as it comes stock, then that shouldn't be an issue for you. So just take that in consideration if you're considering getting this amplifier. The AC15 is an iconic amp with really great clean and distorted tones. It is loud enough for most gigs. It is a fantastic studio amp and it takes pedals really well. It can be easily modded with a new speaker, new tubes, or a new reverb tank. It's also got great features like tremolo and reverb that are foot switchable. You have the external and extension cab, as well as the top boost and the normal channel. The first thing we need to address is that the AC15 is not a grab and go amplifier. It is 50 pounds, meaning that if you have to walk around with it a lot, or if you have to go up a flight of stairs, or if you have a bad back or bad knees like me, well, then that's going to be an issue for you because it's really not that light. And on top of that, there's only one handle on top, which kind of makes it really quirky and it hits your legs as you try to walk around with it. So do take that into consideration. The other point to consider is that the AC15 is a very loud amplifier at 15 watts, meaning that if you just want a practice amp, it's probably going to be too loud for home use. Which brings me to my last point. The AC15 at bedroom levels doesn't sound all that good. If you want to get some great tones out of it, you're going to have to be able to crank it up a bit. So if you're just looking for a practice amp, the AC15 might not be the amp for you. Now, after all this, if you're still unsure which amp you should go with, here's my humble opinion. The AC10 is a great choice if you don't need the normal channel, if you don't need tremolo, if you don't mind the digital reverb, and if you need something that can both fit at home for practice, for home studios, and for the occasional gigs, then the AC10 is a winner. Plus, it has a really nice sounding distortion. It's a little more saturated compared to the AC15, and it also takes pedals like a champ. At 12 pounds, this is not a heavy amplifier, and it doesn't have a huge footprint on stage or at home. It sounds great, and on top of that, it has a great price whether you buy it on the new or used market. Now, if you play a lot of live gigs or if you're in the studio a lot, the AC15 makes a lot of sense. So if you're in one of those situations or both of them, if you're playing a lot of live gigs and in the studio, the AC15 is a really great choice.